Alright, what is going on, guys? Today is my birthday and here I am working on my car. Really don't have any big plans going on today. You guys will probably see this in the future, probably a couple of days, maybe a week after today. Pretty much I've done quite a bit to the car off camera, just because I've had homies coming over, and it's just like with everybody just being here, it's kind of hard to stay on track and focus and actually record a video for you guys. So what we've done, I will actually just show you guys here real quick, but we pretty much torqued down cam gears, torqued down the harmonic balancer, trimmed the timing belt cover to actually fit that in and install that harmonic balancer, the fluid damper. You actually need to shave off the snout off the timing cover. So I've done that. The fuel lines, pretty much bolting up the alternator today and pretty much getting the rest of the timing covers on and then calling it a day for the day, just because I have quite a bit of things to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys real quick on what exactly I have done to the vehicle since the last video. So let's go. All right, so what we have here, we have my two fuel lines. I have both the return, which is the one on the left, and the feed right here on the right, routed through. Pretty much what I'm doing this, I'm doing it under the car. Reason being is because I don't have enough space on the side over here to run the fuel lines through and inside the actual plug in the firewall. So in order to avoid that, I'm just running them under the car. I'll show you guys here in a bit on how that's routed under and how I'm gonna tie everything up onto the frame and chassis so that way it can be as secure as possible. But yeah, that is that right there. As you can see here, I got my clear timing covers on. Other than that, got the pulley on here. Got these two bolts right here so I can hold the pulley in place and torque down to spec. This one does go to like about 100 foot-pounds, so just a heads up on that. It is a pretty nice torque setup that you have on there. And then I torqued down all of the cam gears down to their relative 70 to 75 foot-pounds. So those are all torqued down now. Pretty much the way that I did it was I torqued down the harmonic balancer first, and then I pretty much got the 22, put it in there, held it in place while I torqued down each single cam gear, because these cam gears, as you can see, you cannot get the OEM tool on there, so you have to do it with the timing belt on. This is what BC recommends. So please make sure that you have the tensioner on there. If you are doing your cam gears, you gotta have the whole timing assembly tension down so that way the gears don't slip. So yeah, that's gonna be all done there. As you can see here, the Alternator Relocation Kit is currently going on. I've had some issues with this one as far as fitment goes. Obviously I have a 2-liter dipstick, so that's gonna be rattling around there. I gotta fix that. So I had to kind of modify it and, you know, push it out of the way to even clear. But it looks like the alternator is actually hitting the actual block on the bottom. So I'm actually using some spacers, some washers essentially, to space up this bracket right here. So that way this bracket gets brought up a little bit, so that way the alternator can be brought up a little bit as well. And you could angle this too, so that should help out as far as this hitting the block goes. But I think that's pretty much it for what's going on the top end for now. I have the big throttle body as well that's going to be thrown on, but I am waiting on some gasket that's coming in today at my Subaru dealer for the throttle body. And other than that, I mean, I have the TGV gaskets that go onto the intake manifold. I need to actually drill out and actually get the holes a little bit bigger on my actual intake manifold, because essentially the TGVs are different between a WRX intake manifold and an STI intake manifold. The ones for the WRX, the lines won't actually not line up. They're a little bit more on the side, more towards the right, and then the STI ones with drive-by-wire throttle intake manifolds, they are more towards the left. So that's why if you look at this actual gasket, you can see how it's kind of like got that oblong shape to it. So that is the reason why that is like that. So yeah, let's show you under the vehicle. And I apologize, I got the wiring done off the camera as well, just because I just didn't have time to record. Like I said, my homies came over, and yeah, so I got that all set up now. I'm gonna show you guys how I wired that in and how that's gonna be all set up. I actually have one wire which is going to be for the hop switch that is going towards the front of the vehicle. So this is the wire that's going to be for the hop switch. So I'm going to wire that in line and get that switch plumbed into the intake manifold, so that way when it hits 15 pounds of boost, the actual secondary fuel pump will kick on and supply the rest of the 450 of the fuel. So yeah, let me show you guys how the underside's looking like. So this is how I have my fuel lines ran through. I have them running down the driver's side here. I have a little stainless zip tie right there just for now, just to hold it. It's gonna be running through here. I'm actually running it right on the side of this frame right here. That way there is as much clearance as possible in case I need to actually put on the lift. It doesn't pinch the hoses. So this is actually where you lift it from. So yeah, so this is essentially going to be routed up right here and tied down. Obviously, it's going to be all nice and evenly spaced out. It's not going to be looking all ugly how it is right now. And yeah, so it's running under the bottom of the vehicle. And I'm going to have my Aeromotive inline filter in the actual engine bay. So I'm routing this down through here. Oh, let's see if I can get kind of a better look here. So I'm running it right above the cross member, and I'm going to be running it towards the side here. That way I don't have any of my exhaust right next to it, because that is the last thing you would want. You will combust that fuel like no other, and I do not want to have to use my fire extinguisher that I have in the car. So yeah, so that is how I am routing these fuel lines, and I'm going to take you guys towards the back and show you how I did my wiring setup for that car. And I apologize because the actual trunk is pretty dirty itself. So yeah, I need to clean that up. There's a lot of like insulation that was left over by the previous owner, and it's super ugly, and I don't have any carpet in there, so I apologize in advance, but let's go ahead and take a look at it. All right, so here it is. Once again, I'm sorry, it's very ugly looking in here, and the actual cover for this side, which I have one on the other side, is actually on top of the car with the seats right there. Yeah, so essentially, one fuel pump relay I have wired straight into the harness of the vehicle, which is going to be for my regular fuel pump. And what I did to kind of clean up the wiring here was I used some of this wire loom here, which actually keeps your wires together and makes everything look a lot more uniform. I used some of that wire loom there, so that way there's not just wires just everywhere looking all ugly. But essentially, let me move this light around. What's going on here is one of my fuel pumps is wired in normally to the actual relay right here, and then the other one all right, so I essentially messed up on the secondary fuel pump wiring, so I'm gonna go over that now. I'm gonna let the video play in the background as I'm explaining this. Do not follow my hands or whatever I'm doing in that video. So I figured out that I wired it in wrong after getting my fuel lines completed and plumbing everything through to make sure there weren't any fuel leaks. I was trying to get my secondary fuel pump to trigger, and it was not triggering. So the reason why is because the blue trigger wire is going to be a positive reference. So I was essentially trying to ground that positive reference to a ground, so you're getting no actual power signal from the chassis. It's a ground. So I messed that up. So the blue trigger wire for the secondary fuel pump is going to be wired into the same trigger wire that the primary fuel pump goes wired into. So that trigger that you use to trigger on the primary is going to be the same wire you're going to use to trigger the secondary. So those two blue wires are going to be wired into that one wire that goes out of your fuel pump harness. So those are going to be wired in. Essentially, the yellow is going to be wired in the same way as well. So the yellow is going to be power to pump. So that one you're going to put power straight into your pump. So your primary is going to have the yellow wire to the relay. It's going to go into pump number one, the secondary fuel pump relay. That yellow power wire is going to go into the pump itself for that one as well. And then when it comes to the positives just go straight to the battery, so nothing different there. So the red wires are going to go straight to your positive for your battery. Now, where the difference is that on the primary, you have your ground going straight to your battery, so that is going to be correct for your primary. Now for your secondary, what you're going to do is, in order to avoid having to get another positive signal, you get the black wire and you actually put the hop switch in series for that wire. So the black ground wire, you're going to run a ground wire all the way up to the front of the engine bay, and then you're going to splice in the hop switch and, you know, get that all plumbed into your vacuum and set whatever your boost reference is, if you do have one, or if not, it's going to be, I think, 15 pounds, I think is what they normally get triggered at. So you get your hop switch wired in, and then, you know, obviously you get one side of the ground into your hop switch, and then the other side of the switch, you're going to ground it out to the body. So essentially what's going to happen is whenever your hop switch gets that reference PSI, once it gets that reference and it gets that from your intake manifold, it will trigger and actually complete the circuit. So it'll complete the circuit once you hit 15 pounds, and once it completes that circuit, it'll let that ground out to your chassis. So in essence, what is going on is you are just cutting out the ground and grounding it. So that is what your hop switch is doing in order to avoid having to get a positive signal, which is what you would have had to do if you did it off of the blue wire. So ignore the blue wire going as like a trigger. That trigger is going to be wired into your primary trigger as well for your primary fuel pump. So both blues from both fuel pumps. So if you have the Joshworks relays with the wiring harnesses, both of those blues are going to be tied into whatever trigger wire it is for your fuel pump harness that actually triggers your fuel pumps to turn on when you turn the ignition key on. So just as a reference, I did mess it up in the video and I am sorry. So essentially the two blues go together, red goes to power, and then yellow goes to fuel pump. And the black, you're gonna go all the way to the engine bay and route that into your hop switch, and then pretty much ground the hop switch out to your chassis. And your hop switch will essentially complete the circuit. So just food for thought. I am sorry that I messed this up, but this is the correct way to do it. The ground is gonna go into your hop switch from your relay, so the black wire is going to go to your hop switch. So thank you guys, and let's continue on forward with the video. So for now, what I am doing is I'm getting my clear timing covers on, so they actually have supplied hardware. So pretty much this is the supplied hardware that they give you. So I am throwing on all the bolts on there, tightening everything down, and then pretty much calling it a day. I already have 2 on, so I don't have too many left to go. So, and then please recall that these do not get tightened to an extreme amount. Hand tight should be okay. That is what I'm going to be doing here, is just like hand tight, nothing too crazy, because I don't want to crack these covers as well, since they are pretty nice. Don't know how fragile they are since they have the brass fittings on there, but yeah. So let's get some tight in here. So now that that side's on, I'm going to be throwing on the passenger side cover. So there's 4 bolts left. So there's one more bolt which I actually don't know where it goes, but I'm just gonna run it how it is now, just with the last 3 bolts that I have in there. Yeah, these are just so crazy looking, dude. Like, holy hell. Yeah, throw this one on, and then we'll continue on forth with installing the alternator. All right, so obviously you want to make sure you line up your actual timing cover to the little there's like little sleeves kind of that this like rolls into. It looks like everything's all lined up into the sleeves. So now I can throw in these last little screws. So now pretty much tighten these. Like I said, nothing too crazy, nothing too extreme. Should be about good. And there you go. So they are all set up now. So that is going to be it for as far as the timing cover install goes. And like I said, it's a very unique piece to have on there. Like, crazy looking. So crazy to be able to just see your gears just all at work and in motion. It's awesome. So we're gonna go ahead and move on to installing the alternator. This one right here is kind of gonna be a pain. I have to keep putting spacers on there until I get the height that I want. I think I'm gonna use 2 washers, and I think that should achieve the height that I need for the actual alternator. So move the alternator upwards. So this right here is it's hitting the water line in the bottom. I'll show you guys here in a bit when I get this bolt off. I don't know, it sucks for sure, but it's whatever. It's an easy fix, I guess. All right, so now that that's out, I'll show you where it's hitting here. All right. So, as far as where this alternator is hitting, this rubber is actually hitting on this water line right here. So, and it's kind of known for being an issue from these IAG alternator setups, but according to them is that this should be an updated part, so it shouldn't have that issue anymore, but I am having the issue on this one. So just a heads up for you guys trying to do these alternator relocation kits, that you might still have that problem with this hitting this bottom hose. So that's why I'm using some spacers, some washers to move up the bracket, so that way the alternator sits a little bit higher. So yeah, we're gonna get to this, and hopefully this all goes well and this all goes as planned. If not, I am gonna have to do something else to get that all taken care of. So let's go. So now that I have those 2 washers in there, I'm gonna see how the height's looking at here. Got that bracket on there now. Now we're gonna go ahead, we're gonna drop the alternator and see what this is looking like now. Okay, it looks like it actually might be okay now. That is actually clearing now, so that actually worked like I thought it would. So now I can go ahead and install this and tighten everything down, and then not to worry about this alternator relocation kit. Super simple to do. It's just 2 bolts right here in the front for this bracket right here, and then it's going to be 1 bolt tying the actual bracket for the alternator down into the driver's side head, and pretty much using one of their supplied hardware to actually put the bolt through on the front of the alternator. It's very ugly looking though. I wish it wasn't that ugly. Like, I really need to like take this thing apart and really clean it up, but I'm just gonna go ahead and just roll with it for now. I know it's dumb. Like, I have very nice like engine dress up bits, and then the alternator and the power steering pump are looking all ugly. But yeah, we'll go ahead and just throw that on there and tighten this down, and I think that should be it for today. I am not going to be throwing the belt on because I am not going to be running power steering for a little bit. I still need to fix the O-ring on the rack that is leaking. So once I get that all fixed, I'll go ahead and route the proper belt to get the alternator and the power steering pump ran together. So let me grab the final bolt, and I think we should be golden. This one right here is going to be the final bolt that gets thrown on there. It is an Allen. I can't remember what the size of it is, but it gets routed through the back here. Got the bolt through. Go ahead and just using a wobble socket, you would get that bolt in there. Just because it's a very tight spot, having that Allen bolt is pretty long, and the actual key for this one is pretty long as well. All right, so I think I can actually tighten it with just the ratchet itself. Yep. So I think that should be all right. It is aluminum, so you definitely don't want to mess that up. So now that one's tightened down, go ahead and tighten the 14 down here. Bam. All right, so alternator setup is all set and done here. And I think that's gonna be it for today, guys. It's very nice that this is not hitting anymore. This is actually clearing the pipe very well now. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys what the outcome of this is. So there it is. There's bolts in there. The bracket's all bolted down. Everything's looking very nice in here. So yeah, this is looking really good so far. And this right here is no longer hitting the water pipe. So all you really need to do if you're having this issue, just grab yourself some washers. I actually have an extra one right in here. Grab yourself some washers. Get a nice little thickness to them. I use 2 of these fat washers, is what they call them at Ace Hardware. So I used 2 of these fat washers, and that was enough to give me enough clearance to get that little 12 and red protector from hitting and grounding out on the water outlet pipe. So yeah, this is very nice so far. I'm actually very close to getting this thing running now. There's really not much I need to do. Just need to get the fuel lines routed correctly. I need to bolt them up on the frame. Once I bolt them up on the frame, that's when I'm gonna go ahead and cut them to length and actually install 8 fittings. And then after that, put the intake manifold on and then get my pipe made because it's going to be rotated. It's gonna be going in through here. So get the pipe made for the car, and yeah, I think we're pretty close, guys. So there really wasn't much that needed to be done because the block's already built. So we're very close to the end here for getting the car running. Once I get the car running, I have a bass tune for the car. Throw on the bass tune for a little bit, maybe do a couple revisions with Eric at Torque Performance, and from there, once I get it running to the point where I can just drive it normally and not have to worry about anything, I'll probably work on getting the standalone in there, getting my safeties in there as well, and then actually really start pushing some power and go for that 800 wheel, because that is going to be insane. 800 wheel horsepower in this car is going to be absolutely nuts. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it for today, guys, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Please like and subscribe. I appreciate the support once again, and y'all have a great day.